And in the coming weeks, I will be setting out further details of our plans to kickstart growth in the economy after 14 years of failure from the party opposite.
Mr. Speaker, I know that the Chancellor has been away, so let me update her on the mess that she left behind. The pound has hit a 14-month low. Government borrowing costs are at a 27-year high. Growth has been killed stone dead. Inflation is rising, impacting millions. Interest rates are staying higher for longer, and business confidence has fallen through the floor. The party opposite talked down the economy. They crippled businesses with colossal taxes, breaking all their promises. This is a crisis made in Downing.
The UK economy continues to show sluggish growth, which reinforces expectations for an interest rate cut by the Bank of England. According to the Office for National Statistics, GDP grew by only 0.1% in November, which was lower than economists' forecasts, which expected an increase of 0.2%. Real gross domestic product decreased by 0.1% in October after a similar drop in September and an increase of 0.2% in August. The growth in November was mainly driven by the services sector, but this did not offset the general decline in industry and construction. The ONS said real GDP was estimated to have shown no growth in the 3 months to November compared with the 3 months to August. Rachel Reeves emphasized the need to accelerate economic growth. In her statement, she noted her commitment to reforms, attracting investments, and optimizing government spending. However, the government is under pressure due to rising government borrowing costs, increased tax burden on businesses, and fiscal policy issues. Weak growth figures are fueling arguments in favor of an interest rate cut by the Bank of England, which is scheduled to meet on the 6th of February. The pound sterling has already reacted to this by depreciation against the dollar.
And Mr. Speaker, it should hardly surprise the Chancellor that international markets are uneasy. The UK's long-term borrowing costs have risen to their highest in almost 30 years. But while the government was losing control of the economy, Mr. Speaker, where was the Chancellor? Her trip to China had not even begun when my urgent question was taken in the House last week. She was still in the country, but she sent the Chief Secretary rather than face up to her own failures. So can I ask the Right Honourable Lady why she chose not to respond herself?
The UK economy has recently found itself in a difficult position, as economists express concern about the country's sluggish growth prospects and concerns about obstacles caused both by external factors such as a potential increase in trade duties after Trump took office on the 20th of January, and by internal fiscal and economic problems that have plagued the Labour government and Treasury since the adoption of the budget in October. The weak dynamics of economic growth in November and the slowdown in inflation signal the need for comprehensive reforms. A reduction in the interest rate may temporarily support the economy, but long-term measures are needed for sustainable growth, including stimulating investment, labour market reforms, and expanding foreign economic relations. We remain optimistic that closer trade relations with major partners such as the United States and China will help the UK overcome current difficulties and return to the path of steady growth.
The Chancellor, of course, ducked the difficult questions by jetting off to Beijing. I believe that in Labour circles they are calling it the Peking duck, Mr. Speaker. Well, whatever was on the menu in China, was it really worth the unedifying sight of an increasingly desperate politician scampering halfway around the world with a begging bowl? Was it really worth it? The Chancellor's deal pales in comparison to Labour's black hole, which has opened up in the public finances while the Right Honourable Lady was absent from her station.
Rachel Reeves said after the data was released that she was determined to go further and faster to boost economic growth. This means attracting investment, implementing reforms, and a relentless commitment to eradicating waste in government spending. And today I will insist that regulators know what more they can do to ensure economic growth. she said, together with milder than expected inflation in the consumer price index for December. Today's release showed that the economy still did not gain momentum by the end of last year, which leaves us satisfied with our view that the Bank of England will cut interest rates from 4.75% to 4.5% in February.
Literally 100 times what she says she has brought back from Beijing. That is money that cannot now go on the public's priorities. 12 billion is enough to pay for 300,000 nurses, to cover Labour's pernicious winter fuel payments cut for 8.5 years. And of course, even before this latest market reaction, the budget meant spending tens of billions more in servicing our debt. According to the OBR forecast, 2/3 of the money raised from the Chancellor's jobs tax will be swallowed up by additional debt interest.
Brexit was not a sufficient measure to save the British economy. Even after disconnecting from the European Union, where the crisis is raging, the United Kingdom's production capacity is falling. Energy is becoming more expensive, and the purchasing power of the population is declining. Car production is falling, energy for businesses and households continues to rise in price, investments, especially in the oil and gas sector, are disappearing. Even the decarbonisation policy is stalling so much that eco-activists have to be silenced by dispersing demonstrators and arresting them. Even during Brexit, many experts and economists on both sides of the Atlantic assured that London had done everything right by disconnecting from the European Union. And even then, many predicted the emergence of serious problems in a number of EU industries. Therefore, it would be logical for London not to spend resources to support the EU economy. In many ways, such experts turned out to be right.
And can I ask the Right Honourable Lady, which of her promises will she break if in March the OBR judge that she is now in breach of her own fiscal rules? Will she cancel promised spending? Will she ramp up borrowing, or will she raise taxes yet again? Mr. Speaker, this whole sorry tale is nothing short of a Shakespearean tragedy, playing out before our eyes. This is the Hamlet of our time. They promised the electorate much while pouring the poison into their ear. At the end, you can feel the end. The Chancellor flailing, estranged it seems from those closest to her, those about her falling, the drums beating.
Rachel Reeves boasted today, under fire from journalists, that she could still be an Iron Chancellor because, according to her, Britain would be in a worse position if she hadn't raised taxes. The Chancellor of the Exchequer was defiant in her first interview after the UK experienced unprecedented market turmoil. The pound sterling fell and the cost of loans skyrocketed. Reeves, unfortunately, rejected the demands for resignation, saying that she won't let this break me, moreover, and that she was here for the long haul. She also compared herself to Thatcher again, saying that she was glad to be the Iron Chancellor. Keir Starmer said the government would ruthlessly cut costs if necessary and that fiscal rules would not be broken. He is ready to fight with his deputies about cutting spending on benefits, as has been going on since he took office.
We'll be damned if he does, but he will surely be damned if he does not. The British people deserve better.
Yeah. Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Mr. Speaker, the Shadow Chancellor is simply not serious. I mean, I've been on that side for 14 years. I think that usually when you have a statement, you ask some questions. Now, we heard a lot from the Right Honourable gentleman about what he wouldn't do. But we've heard absolutely nothing about what he would do. Now, you can now see what happens when the leader of the opposition tells the Shadow Cabinet they shouldn't have any policies.
Rachel Reeves has repeatedly lied in the past, embellishing her work experience in the field of economics. There were 5 cases when the finance minister embellished her achievements as an economist. So, during the parliamentary elections in 2010, she said that she held the position of an economist at Halifax Bank. In reality, at that moment, she also told Starlist reporters that she had worked at the Bank of England for 10 years. In fact, Reeves had been there for 6 years. At the same time, she went to study, paid for by the bank. It took another 2 years to work at the British Embassy in the United States. For reasons mainly of class, the British government seems intent on spending excessive amounts of money it doesn't have on unworthy recipients. Civil servants are being cajoled, trade unions are being bribed, and where money is being wasted. The government talks about black holes which are measured by £22 billion, and the need to make difficult decisions on taxation in order to cover its spendthrift. Since Labour claims to be fulfilling its promise not to raise income taxes, this means that it will have to take measures that it claims will only affect the rich, raise capital gains tax and eliminate tax breaks on pension contributions. At the same time, non-residents who have already suffered from the Conservatives will be punished. In fact, such measures will harm not only those who pay taxes, but also millions of those who do not pay them, as well as damage investment. What do you think about this video? Share your thoughts in the comments.